They said her hands created desserts sweeter than heaven. But no one knew those same hands were about to send 8 powerful men straight to their graves. The night air around Magnolia Plantation carried the scent of sugar, smoke, and secrets. Inside the dimly lit kitchen, Judith stood alone, her shadow trembling against the brick walls. Her apron was stained with flour, cinnamon, and the memories of every beating she had taken in silence. The owners called her Sweet Judith, but nothing about her sweetness was real anymore. She had learned early that the kitchen was the only place where she held any power, the only place where the masters depended on her, the only place where she was invisible enough to plot something they would never see coming. Tonight, her hands moved differently, calmer, colder, as if she already knew how this story was supposed to end. She measured the sugar slowly, letting each grain fall like snow on a coffin. She mixed the butter as gently as a lullaby. She folded the dough with the care of a mother tucking in a child, every motion soft, every breath controlled. But her eyes, they burned. Because Judith wasn't just baking, she was remembering. Remembering the screams of her sister dragged away in chains, remembering the day her mother collapsed in the fields and no one cared enough to stop the work. Remembering the laughter of the plantation owners as they toasted to their own cruelty. Those memories were the secret ingredients, the real recipe, and tonight she would serve it with a smile. The fire cracked behind her. The kitchen door creaked. Judith didn't turn around. She didn't need to. She knew exactly who was watching her. Master Horace, the man who believed he owned her life like a piece of furniture. He leaned on the doorway with his fat pride and whispered, "Make sure the dessert is perfect, Judith. We're celebrating tonight." Judith nodded slowly, her face calm, her hands steady, her heart deadly. "It'll be perfect, sir," she said. And it was. Because this dessert wasn't meant to be enjoyed. It was meant to end a legacy of monsters. Tonight was only the beginning, and Judith knew it. If you want the next, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more powerful storytelling. They thought dessert was the highlight of their celebration. They didn't know it was the beginning of their downfall. The celebration at Magnolia Plantation roared through the night. Lamps glowed across the courtyard like tiny suns, casting long shadows that stretched like ghosts. Wine flowed, laughter echoed. And inside the kitchen, Judith moved with the quiet precision of a woman carrying a secret too heavy for her heart. She sliced the peaches slowly, letting the juices drip like golden tears. Nutmeg, cloves, a soft drizzle of bourbon. The scents rose into the air like invisible warnings, warnings the men outside would never understand. Through the open doorway, Judith studied the long dining table. 8 chairs, 8 plates, 8 men who believed themselves gods. Master Horace lounged at the head of the table, smug and swollen with pride. Beside him, the others gathered in a circle of arrogance. Grayson, McBride, Thomas, Reddick, Cole, Barker, Jennings. Men who had carved pain into her life with every command, every blow, every stolen moment of peace. Judith inhaled slowly. This wasn't fear inside her chest, it was purpose. The kitchen door whispered open. Young Ellen stepped inside, eyes wide, voice trembling. "Judith, they said they're ready for dessert." Judith brushed a gentle hand over the girl's arm. "Nothing will happen to you tonight," she murmured. Her voice carried a calmness that didn't belong to the chaos inside her mind. She lifted the peach tart from the counter. Golden, perfect, deceptive. Each step toward the dining hall felt like stepping deeper into fate's open mouth. The wooden floor creaked beneath her feet. The fire cracked behind her. The wind outside sighed like it already knew what was coming. Judith paused at the entrance. All 8 men raised their glasses, their faces stretched into drunken smiles. Predators celebrating a feast. They didn't know the dessert in Judith's hands carried the weight of generations. They didn't know justice could be served warm, sweet, and fatal. And as she stepped forward, Judith felt no guilt, only certainty. Tonight was the night the first man would fall. For next, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe so you never miss the next of this dark journey. The first spoon hadn't even touched his tongue, and yet Judith already knew which man would die before sunrise. The dining hall glowed with warm candlelight, but the atmosphere felt colder than a grave. Judith stepped forward silently, placing the golden peach tart in the center of the long wooden table. 8 pairs of greedy eyes followed it, like wolves watching fresh meat. Master Horace clapped his hands. "Well done, Judith! Looks perfect, as always." Judith lowered her gaze. "Thank you, sir." But her eyes, hidden beneath the shadows, were sharp as broken glass. Horace sliced into the tart first. Steam rose. Sugar melted. The sweet aroma filled the room with a false comfort. The other men leaned forward, eager, unaware of the danger resting on their plates. Master Grayson laughed drunkenly. "Horace, you've got the best cook in the whole state. I swear, one day this woman's desserts will be the death of us." Judith's heart skipped, not in fear, but in recognition. The universe had a cruel sense of humor. As Judith stepped back near the wall, she watched the forks lift. Slow, unknowing, almost innocent. Horace took the first bite. The room went quiet, completely quiet. Every man waited for his reaction. Horace closed his eyes and let out a deep sigh. "Perfect," he said. "Sweet Judith never disappoints." But Judith wasn't watching Horace. Her gaze slid to the man seated across from him, Master Reddick, the thinnest of the group, the one with a heart weakened by years of gluttony and whiskey. He took a bite, chewed, paused. His fork slipped from his fingers. Master McBride frowned. "Reddick, you all right?" Reddick opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out, only a choked gasp. His hand clutched at his throat. His eyes went wide, bulging like someone drowning on dry land. Chairs scraped, men stood in panic. "Fetch water! Get the doctor! What's happening?" But Judith already knew. She had seen the signs before: the tightening throat, the collapsing lungs, the sudden shock. Reddick fell forward onto the table, his plate shattering, his body shaking, his breath gone. The first man had fallen. Judith kept her face still, blank, obedient. Inside, a storm of justice whispered, "1 down, 7 to go." Want next? Make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chilling. The first death was chaos. The second would be fear. Screams ripped through the dining hall as Master Reddick's body collapsed across the table. Wine glasses toppled, Plates shattered. Men shouted over each other, their confidence bleeding into panic. Judith stood in the corner, silent, hands folded neatly like a statue carved from calmness. No one looked at her. No one ever did. And tonight, that invisibility was her greatest weapon. Master Horace shook Reddick violently. Get up, damn you!" But Reddick's eyes were already frozen wide, staring at something none of them could see. Judith knew that stare. The stare of someone realizing too late that justice had teeth. Master McBride pointed at Judith suddenly. "You, fetch water." "Yes, sir," she replied, moving quickly but not urgently. As she stepped out of the room, the hallway swallowed the noise behind her. Her breaths grew steady, measured, almost peaceful. Because Judith knew exactly what came next. Fear. It always starts slow, a whisper, a doubt, a quiet suspicion sinking into the mind like rot. When she returned with water, the men were arguing. It was his heart. No, it was the heat. Maybe the peaches were spoiled. Then Grayson snapped, "Quiet. None of you know what you're talking about." He pointed at the dessert. It happened right after he ate that. The room went silent. 8 men had walked into the evening with arrogance. Now 7 stared at a tart as if it were a beast waiting to strike again. Judith placed the water down, her face a mask. Inside her chest, a pulse of dark satisfaction echoed. They were finally afraid. Finally human. Master Horace pushed the plate away violently. "I'm not touching any of it." But Master Horace, stubborn and proud, shoved back his chair. "Don't be ridiculous. Judith wouldn't harm anyone. She's loyal." Judith felt her heart twist at the word loyal, a word they only used when someone they oppressed was useful. Horace took another bite, a big one, purposeful, defiant. The others froze. Judith lowered her eyes to hide the spark that flickered inside them, because she knew something they didn't. The second death never takes long, and before the night was over, another chair at that table would sit empty. To continue this chilling journey, like, share, comment, and subscribe for next. The first death terrified them. The second would break them. Master Horace chewed defiantly, his jaw tight, his pride tighter. The other men stared at him as if each bite might explode inside his mouth. The room smelled of peaches, fear, and sweat. Thick, suffocating. Judith kept her gaze lowered, the perfect mask of obedience hiding the storm behind her eyes. Master Thomas finally snapped. "This is madness! We need a doctor! Now!" But no one moved, because deep inside, every man knew the truth. Doctors couldn't save a wicked soul from its own past. Horace swallowed the last bite and smirked. "There, see? Nothing but good food. Y'all are losing your minds." His words fell flat. No one laughed. No one breathed easy. Then, a cough. Just a small one. Horace pressed a hand to his chest. Coughed again. Harder. McBride stood quickly. "Horace?" Horace waved him off, irritation forming at the edges of his forced smile. "I'm fine." Another cough tore from him. Deep, raw, violent. His face reddened, his breath stuttered. The room froze. Thomas whispered, "Not again. God, not again." Horace tried to speak, but the words tangled in his throat. His hand knocked over a glass. Wine spilled across the table, like blood spreading across a grave. Judith watched quietly, not proudly, not joyfully, just steadily. Justice didn't need celebration. It only needed completion. Horace stumbled back, gripping the edge of the table. His knees buckled. He collapsed to the floor with a thud that shook the entire room. The men rushed toward him, calling his name, shaking him, pleading with him. But his eyes were turning glassy, his breaths shallow, his pulse fading. Judith had seen that look too many times, on people who never deserved it. Tonight, it was different. Tonight, it belonged to the monster who believed he owned her life. Grayson backed away, his voice trembling. This can't be the food. It can't. Barker whispered, "Then what is it?" The room fell silent. Judith stood like a shadow among flames, untouched, unnoticed, unstoppable. 2 men dead, 6 left, and for the first time the plantation owners understood. Something was hunting them. Something inside their own house. Something they couldn't see. But Judith could. She had seen them clearly her whole life. If you want next, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. 2 men were dead, but the real terror hadn't even started yet. The dining hall felt colder, darker, smaller after Horace collapsed. The men didn't sit anymore. They paced, whispered, argued, each one fighting a different fear. Judith stood near the wall, hands folded neatly. Her calmness unnerved them more than the deaths themselves. But none dared question her. Not yet. Master Grayson slammed his fist on the table. "We need to lock down the plantation. Nobody in or out." McBride shook his head violently. "This ain't normal, Grayson. 1 death, maybe, but 2 minutes apart? Something's wrong." Barker swallowed hard. "You think it's disease?" Jennings whispered the word no one wanted to say. "Poison." Silence, sharp enough to cut. All eyes drifted, just for a second, toward Judith. But she kept her gaze down, voice soft. "Would you like me to prepare tea? It might calm your nerves." The men flinched. "Now!" Thomas snapped. His fear made his voice crack. "No more food, no drink, nothing." Judith bowed slightly, as if the rejection didn't matter, as if she hadn't expected it. Inside, she felt the shift. The fear was no longer confusion. It had grown into suspicion. And soon, suspicion would grow into desperation. A stormy wind rattled the shutters, making the candles flicker violently. Shadows danced across the walls, twisting into shapes that looked like ghosts watching the living crumble. Grayson clutched the back of a chair, his knuckles white. "Horace was healthy! Raddick too! This ain't nature! This is someone targeting us!" McBride's voice trembled. "But who would dare? Who hates us enough to—" The question didn't need an answer. Everyone in that room knew the truth. Everyone outside that room lived it. Judith could feel their eyes drifting toward her, not with anger yet, but with the slow rot of doubt. Jennings' breath shook. "We shouldn't stay here. We should leave tonight." "And go where?" Barker spat. "You think something out there is hunting us? It's in this house." Grayson grabbed a pistol from a drawer. "We stick together. We watch every door, every shadow, every person." His gaze stopped on Judith. "Especially her!" The room tensed. Even Judith's heartbeat paused for a moment. But she simply lowered her eyes again, playing the role they expected. Because fear was blinding them, and blinded men make deadly mistakes. 2 were gone. 6 remained, and Judith knew exactly which one would fall next. For next, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to continue this dark journey. Fear had turned them into animals. But animals make mistakes, and Judith was waiting for the next one. The storm outside slammed against the plantation walls, each thunderclap shaking the house like judgment knocking on the door. Inside, the remaining 6 men huddled together, clutching pistols, whispering prayers they hadn't said in decades. Judith moved silently among them, her footsteps soft as breath. No one ordered her to serve anymore. No one dared ask her for anything. But they watched her, the way trapped men watch the shadow of a predator they can't see clearly. Grayson barked orders like a cornered dog. "Check the windows. Nobody sleeps. We stay awake until sunrise." Thomas paced back and forth, muttering, "It's the food. It's got to be the food. But Horace took the biggest bite. Why didn't Judith eat any? Why—" Barker grabbed his arm. "Shut up. You think saying her name is safe right now?" Jennings, shaking, pointed at Judith. "She's too calm for someone who's seen 2 men die." Judith finally lifted her eyes. Just once. Just enough for every man to feel a cold ripple crawl down their spine. "I've seen death my whole life. Tonight isn't different," she said softly. Her words fell like a blade. The men turned away, afraid of the truth wrapped inside her voice. The truth of someone who had buried hope long before this night and found something stronger in its place. Hours passed. The storm raged. The house creaked under its weight. Midnight. The moment the night shifts. The moment fear grows teeth. Grayson ordered everyone to separate and check each room for threats. A foolish decision. Fear clouded judgment too easily. McBride, trembling, moved through the hallway alone. His shadow stretched across the floor like a long, dying ribbon. Judith followed quietly, not rushing, not hiding, just walking behind him like a memory he had tried to forget. He pushed open the pantry door, whispering to himself, "It's nothing. It's nobody. It has to be—" The door slammed shut behind him. McBride spun around. "Who's there? Show yourself!" His voice echoed. The storm answered. Judith didn't. He reached for the shelf, trying to steady himself, but the shelf wasn't steady. It tilted, toppled. Barrels crashed down. A scream drowned under thunder. When the others rushed in moments later, McBride lay crushed beneath the fallen weight. Broken. Lifeless. Gone. Judith stood among them, face still, eyes lowered. Inside, her heartbeat whispered. 3 down. 5 to go. 3 had fallen, but the night wasn't done with them yet, not even close. Lightning slashed across the sky as the men stared at McBride's crushed body, their breaths shallow, their eyes wide with a terror they could no longer hide. Barker whispered, "This isn't possible. People don't just die like this." Thomas backed away from the body, as if it might rise and grab him. First poison, now this. Something's in this house with us. Jennings' voice cracked. "It's not something, it's someone." All 3 slowly turned to Judith. Her face was calm, too calm. But her hands were neatly folded, her posture respectful, just as a servant was trained to be. Grayson pushed forward, rage boiling under his fear. "What do you know about this? Answer me!" Judith lifted her eyes just slightly, only enough to make him feel seen and judged. "I know that fear kills quicker than poison," she said softly. The storm roared behind her words. The men shivered. Grayson threw the accusation aside. He couldn't confront her, not alone. He needed the others. He needed the illusion of power. "Everyone back to the hall," he ordered. "Nobody wanders alone again, not one of us." Thomas nodded quickly. Jennings gripped his pistol like it was the only thing keeping him alive. Barker wiped sweat from his brow, trying to hide the tremble in his hands. They marched back to the dining hall together, forming a shaky circle around the dead fire. The flames had burned low, casting weak orange shadows that flickered like dying souls. Grayson blocked the doorway behind them. "We stay here, all night. No one leaves." Judith entered last. But she didn't sit. She didn't join them. She simply stood behind them, a silent reminder of something they wished they could forget. Minutes dragged, then hours. Every sound became a threat. A window rattling, a floorboard creaking, the storm whispering secrets through the walls. Thomas began shaking uncontrollably. "I can't take this. I can't. Something's watching us." Jennings snapped, "Shut up! Just shut up!" But Judith could feel it. The moment when panic evolves into madness, when fear begins eating the mind from the inside. Then it came. A soft thump upstairs. A second. A dragging sound. The men froze. Barker whispered, "Someone else is in this house." Grayson tightened his grip on the pistol. "We go together, slowly." The 5 remaining men rose, trembling, inching toward the stairs. Judith stayed in the hall, unmoving, unbothered. Because she knew something they didn't. Not everything in this house needed her hands. Some horrors they brought upon themselves, and the night was far from over. For next, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chilling. 5 remained, and the night was closing in like a predator ready to strike again. The stairs groaned under the weight of the remaining men. Grayson led the group, pistol shaking in his hand. Thomas and Barker clung to each other, their eyes darting to every shadow. Jennings brought up the rear, muttering prayers he hadn't spoken in years. The second-floor hallway stretched endlessly before them, dark and silent, except for the storm rattling the windows. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a warning. Judith stayed below, her shadow pressed against the wall, her breath calm, steady. She didn't need to follow. The fear above carried her plan for her. A door at the far end opened slowly, just a crack. A draft whispered out, carrying the faint scent of smoke and sugar. Grayson stepped forward. "Stay close, don't—" A sudden crash. A chair tumbled from a room to the floor, shards of wood scattered like splinters in the dim candlelight. Thomas screamed and stumbled backward, nearly toppling down the stairs. Barker tried to steady him, but the fear had already taken hold. Jennings' pistol hand shook violently. Then silence, so thick it pressed against their ears. Grayson approached the open doorway. "Show yourself!" he shouted, voice cracking. No answer. Then movement. A shadow flitted across the hallway, fast, too fast. Thomas screamed again. Barker's pistol fired once, twice. The echo bounced off the walls. Nothing hit, nothing moved. And then a faint whisper floated down from the shadows. "You can't run from what you've done." The men froze, every muscle locked, every breath caught. Grayson's eyes widened. "Judith?" No reply. The whisper came again, closer this time. "You've eaten the sweet, but the bitter is coming." A crash from the end of the hall. The men rushed forward together. And found what? The door empty. No one inside. Nothing left but a toppled chair and the scent of peaches. A wave of panic washed over them. Their bravado was gone. Their strength vanished. Fear had stripped them bare. And Judith, she remained in the shadows below, silent, watching, waiting. 3 deaths upstairs had already been claimed. 2 more awaited the dawn. And as the storm howled outside, the plantation seemed alive with judgment, whispering the truth the men had ignored all their lives. No one escapes the deserts of Judith. No one survives the wrath of a woman who has nothing left to lose. To witness the final, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. The deadly ending is coming. The night was almost over, but the final horrors were about to be served. The storm outside had reached a frenzy, slamming rain against the plantation walls like a drum of doom. Inside, the remaining 3 men huddled in the dining hall, trembling, their eyes darting to every corner. The candles flickered violently, shadows dancing across the walls like specters. Judith stepped into the hall, her apron spotless, her hands folded neatly. She carried a small, unassuming plate. On it, one final dessert. The men flinched, as if her calm presence was poison itself. Grayson's hand tightened around his pistol. "This ends tonight, Judith," he shouted, voice cracking. Judith's lips curved slightly. "Tonight, it ends," she whispered. She placed the plate on the table, right in front of Horace's empty seat. Then, slowly, deliberately, she stepped back, her eyes sweeping over the remaining 3. Each man saw a calmness that no words could explain. Thomas, shaking, reached for the dessert. "Just a taste," he muttered. But before his fork could touch the pastry, he froze. A sudden pain gripped his chest. He gasped, clawing at his throat, his eyes bulging in terror. He fell backward, hitting the floor with a sickening thud. Dead before he could even scream. Jennings and Barker stared in horror. Grayson raised his pistol again, trembling, but Judith's gaze stopped him. "You've tasted the first," she said softly. "Now witness the last." Barker tried to run, but the doors slammed shut as if the house itself had locked him in. A shadow moved faster than his eyes could follow. A scream ripped from his throat, short, sharp. Then nothing. He collapsed, lifeless, just like the others. Only Grayson remained, white-faced, shaking, his pistol useless in his trembling hands. He stumbled backward, searching for an escape that did not exist. Judith stepped closer. "I am the end of what you began," she said. One look into her eyes was enough. Grayson fell to his knees. The storm outside seemed to roar in approval. And then silence. Magnolia Plantation was empty. The 8 men who had ruled with cruelty were gone. No one left but Judith. She walked through the halls, her steps soft but certain. She passed the shattered chairs, the toppled tables, the remains of the feast. Her hands finally rested at her sides, her face calm, her heart quiet. Justice had been served. Sweet, deadly, final. And the plantation, once alive with cruelty, now lay silent under the storm. Judith disappeared into the night, carrying the secrets of the deserts that had killed 8 masters. A legend that would haunt the memory of the land for generations. If you followed Judith's dark journey, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more haunting stories just like this.